Most parents of young teenagers know the endless worry over the amount of time their offspring spent playing video games. But while Ben Fogle would count himself as one of those parents, the television presenter's dilemma is slightly different. His 13-year-old son Ludo has never played a computer game in his life, and it's the TV adventurer who has been encouraging him to give them a try. "I'm a bit worried about it. I want him to be all-rounded. I think I'm the opposite of most fathers. I keep saying to him, 'Do you want me to introduce you to computer gaming?' And he says, 'No, not really,' Ben says. He doesn't have an Xbox or a PlayStation. I don't think he's ever even played one. That's not because we haven't allowed them. I'm not one of those militant parents who says, 'No, you can't.' It's because we've filled his days and weekends with enough stimulation that he doesn't need to, which is the key. Instead of sitting in a darkened room gaming, Ludo and his sister Iona, 11, have clearly inherited their father's all-consuming passion for the outdoors. Indeed, Ben, wife Marina and the two children all enjoy a dizzying array of pastimes. It's because we keep ourselves so busy with walks, dog walking, riding, playing, kayaking and swimming, that their lives are full of enough so they don't miss or want to play computer games, Ben, 49, explains. Ludo loves climbing, he belongs to his school's adventure club, and Iona loves riding. They both love being out in the wild. They certainly spend more time outdoors than indoors. When people say, "How do you do it?" the answer is that no one wants to sit around and be bored. We all need stimulation, but I think you can get just as much stimulation on a beautiful walk. So, while the girls are riding, for Ludo and I our favorite thing is to go off walking. This weekend we did 5 hours of walking each day. We talk about the changing leaves, buds coming out, the bird song, the change in the grass. We start noticing all those little things and it gives me so much satisfaction. Of course, we all love to sit down as a family and watch Netflix like everybody else, but our preference is going out for walks and things like that. It's perhaps no surprise that both children are such keen adventurers, with a father like Ben. Relentlessly enthusiastic and upbeat, the popular presenter's career has taken him to some of the most extreme locations in the world and seen him tackle the sort of tough physical challenges that most people only get to read about. In 2005, he and Olympian James Cracknell famously spent 2 months rowing 3,000 miles across the Atlantic in a two-man boat, and Ben completed the 6-day Marathon des Sables, running across 160 miles of the Sahara. He has also raced to the South Pole with Cracknell, and climbed Mount Everest. But it appears that as passionate as his family are about adventure, they do have their limits. Ben's latest idea, to climb K2, the second highest mountain in the world, after Everest, has not been met with unanimous enthusiasm at home. Known as the Savage Mountain, K2 is one of the deadliest peaks in the world and typically one person dies on the mountain for every 4 who reach the summit. In 2008, 11 mountaineers from international expeditions died over the course of 2 days. Ben admits, "I have been toying with the idea of climbing K2 and the general consensus is they don't want me to do it, which I understand. They've said they would be uncomfortable with it and I respect that. It's a very dangerous mountain with too many variables." That doesn't mean he has been resting on his laurels. Just after Christmas, he spent a month in Antarctica, recreating Scott and Shackleton's attempted expeditions to the South Pole with explorer Dwayne Fields, using Edwardian clothing and kit, for a new series. I was wearing original clothes, living on the original food and sleeping in the original tents and sleeping bags, he explains. It was pretty hard. The original food wasn't the tastiest stuff I've ever tried. It was just one thing, pemmican, which is what they ate. It's rendered beef fat and lard. There'll also be further series of Animal Park and New Lives in the Wild and a series for the BBC on the Scottish Islands. But for the next 2 months, Ben will be bringing his new live tour Ben Fogle, Wild to towns and cities across the country. He says, it's an antidote to all the ills of the world, the anxiety, the pressures, the jealousies and the anger swirling around. It's an uplifting, hopeful, funny, moving evening of anecdotes, encounters, challenges and experiences. It's about what we can learn from nature and the wilderness and how we can live a happier life. I use examples of people who have moved to wild places and what we can learn from their experiences and explain how people can do it themselves. Ben is no stranger to living off the beaten track himself, having made his name after taking part in the BBC reality show Castaway 2000, which followed a group of 36 people marooned on the Scottish island of Taransay, with the aim of creating a fully self-sufficient community within a year. Londoner Ben and his family moved to the countryside just before the pandemic and admits he hankers after an even simpler lifestyle still. Ever since I did Castaway, I've always thought that I would do it one day on a more permanent basis, he says. We've moved out of London to Oxfordshire now, so I'm one step closer. I'm hoping that as the children grow up and head off on their own travels, maybe Marina and I will start looking at the Scottish Islands again. Not necessarily to retire or live there, but certainly to spend more time in a wilder environment. Marina and I are both close to our extended families and we're social, so it would take a lot of persuading, but you never know, life takes strange twists and turns. I'd love to live a much simpler off-grid life. There's something very attractive about collecting my own water, harvesting my own wood, growing my own crops and being cut off from the main system. Ben's daredevil lifestyle has not come without consequences. In Peru, he picked up the flesh-eating bug leishmaniasis and was treated at the School of Tropical Medicine on his return. I needed chemotherapy to get rid of it, he recalls. That's the worst one, but I've also had bits of frostbite in Antarctica and I've had hypothermia twice. The first time was while covering the World Tin Bath Racing Championships for Countryfile on the Isle of Man. I ended up in an ambulance. Meanwhile, Ben still has plenty of other adventures on his bucket list. I'd like to climb K2, swim in ocean, sail around the world and run across America, he continues. Whether I do them or not is another thing, but so far I've been pretty good at ticking off dreams of mine that I've had since I was a child, so you never know. So K2 is still on his list, despite his family's misgivings? It doesn't mean I've totally forgotten the idea, Ben adds with a smile. If something is in my mind, it's difficult to ever get rid of it, so who knows, it may come round another time. Meanwhile, Ben still has plenty of other adventures on his bucket list. I'd like to climb K2, swim in ocean, sail around the world and run across America, he continues. Whether I do them or not is another thing, but so far I've been pretty good at ticking off dreams of mine that I've had since I was a child, so you never know. So K2 is still on his list, despite his family's misgivings? It doesn't mean I've totally forgotten the idea, Ben adds with a smile. If something is in my mind it's difficult to ever get rid of it, so who knows, it may come round another time. Ben Fogle, Wild visits 22 towns and cities in May and June. Tickets on sale now via ens24.com/UK/tour dates/Ben Fogle.
Now take